Tom Trento, director of the United West, with a very important briefing on what's going on in the Middle East, which is going to impact, obviously, the whole wide world. And I couldn't think of a better person to have with us today than my dear friend, Dr. Mordecai Kedar. He is an expert on the Middle East. He's an Arabist. He understands the language, the philosophy, the thinking of the Islamic mind, which is critically important. He's an analyst. He's an intelligence expert. And he's a dear friend and a patriot in America and a patriot in Israel. But Dr. Kedar, before we get going, I see the Star of David back there, but then I see some other green star. What is that flag all about?
Well, the other flag is the flag of an area named Al-Ahwaz in Iran, populated by Arabs. And they are occupied, the occupied territories, actually, as they name themselves, since 1925, almost 100 years since the Persians occupied them and did not let them establish their own state. They are yearning for independence and liberty from the Iranian regime and from the Iranian state. And unfortunately, the world doesn't support them. And by the way, many other minorities in Iran want also independence. The Kurds, the Azerbaijanis, the Turkmens, the Balochis, and many other ethnic groups. And Tom, believe me, one day it will succeed, just like the Soviet Union, which fell apart according to ethnic lines. The same thing would happen in Yugoslavia, in Czechoslovakia. Ethnicity is alive and kicking, and not only, it is alive and killing. And in Iran, this is the problem. One day, maybe we will be blessed to see it with our own eyes. Iran will fall apart. According to ethnic lines, and the Ahwazis, who have this flag, they will be independent and very good of friend of Israel and everybody in the world. All the oil and gas resources of the Iranians are under the feet of the Arabs in the Ahwaz, and the Arabs in the Ahwaz see nothing out of it. And I support them wholeheartedly.
Very, very interesting analysis. I have a question on the distinctives between an Arab and a Persian, but let me tell you about my flag. No. See my flag behind me? You see my flag?
Don't mix. If you tell a Persian that he's an Arab, he will be willing to kill you. He won't kill you, but this is something, if they are angry at something, this is this. Because they look at Arabs, the Persians, look at Arabs from high and above. They think that the Arabs are lizard eaters, no, low life. As the Persians consider them. The Arabs look at the Persians as Ajami, means people who do not know how to speak, because their language is incomprehensible. And by the way, I don't know if you know, Persian is very close to German, because the German tribes who came 2,000 years ago to Europe actually came from Persia. And how do we know? The language. You know, how do you say brother in Persian? Baradar. How do you say daughter? Dokhtar. How do you say father, mother? Fadar, madar. It shows you the proximity between Persian and European languages like English and especially German. And the Germans know that they are descendants of Persians who moved to Europe like 2,000 years ago in the big wandering of nations, as it is being called. So this is their history. And yes, one day they will fall apart.
Well, you know, my respect and my admiration is amazing for you, but I think you may be mistaken on the Persian Arab. Just yesterday, today's the 2nd of August, Persia Iran, open up their arms for their Arab brother, Ismail Haniyeh. What is that all about? They said he almost was God himself. What was that all about?
No, this is the whole a show which they show. They actually were very, very angry at the man. And, in my humble view, there is a good possibility that they are those who got rid of him. Because they blamed him and Hamas in general for shooting before it was planned to be shot. And I don't know if I told you, but the original plan of the Iranians was to attack Israel at 1 minute from Gaza, what we saw on October 7th, in addition to Lebanon, Hezbollah, the 17 militias which they have in Syria, in addition to the 50 militias which they have in Iraq, the Houthis in Yemen, and their plan was to attack Israel with a barrage of missiles and drones, accompanied with land incursion, as we saw in the south, also in the north, capturing the cities in the north of Nahariya, Shlomi, Ma'alot, Kiryat Shmona, Rosh Pina, and all the kibbutzim and the moshavim in between them, capturing thousands of Israelis, killing, raping, everything which we saw near Gaza was supposed to be in the north as well. But this whole war, which they planned, which will destroy Israel within a week, was planned to be carried out only after the Iranians succeed to acquire nuclear weapon in order to protect themselves from any revenge from Israel. Hamas were not supposed to start a war by themselves, and that's what they did without the permission and without letting the Iranians know that they are starting the war. And neither Hezbollah. It was total surprise for them. And therefore they actually used up all the weapons and the ammunition which the Iranians gave them, for nothing. Khamenei actually shouted at Haniyeh some 7 months ago, what did you think, that you will free Palestine by yourself? And you actually woke Israel, and you woke the Americans, and you woke the Europeans, and the Eisenhower aircraft carrier was in the sea. The whole plan was destroyed by Hamas. Hamas actually torpedoed the grand plan of the Iranians. And Iran, this is why Iran, until this very day, did not start the war. Hezbollah, all they have with Israel, and it is bad enough, is border clashes plus, maybe plus. They didn't bombard Tel Aviv, they didn't bombard Haifa, neither the power stations, water supply facilities, roads, bridges, everything which they are planning to do, they have not yet. 9 months, no, 10 months we are now. And they didn't start the real war which they can carry out with a stockpile of missiles which they have. Why? Because Hamas started a war without the permission of the others. And they actually destroyed the Iranian plan. And now, when Israel attacks an Iranian, as we saw in April, they take revenge. But not when we attack Gaza. To that degree, the Iranians abandoned Hamas. So Haniyeh was in Tehran in order to collect some weapons, some ammunition, and maybe to convince the Iranians to join the war. And apparently, there was a big argument. He said, apparently, that you Iranians, you betrayed us. We are being shot at, we are being destroyed by the Israelis. Where are you? Why don't you fight with us? Why don't you support us? Why don't you help us? They blame him for considering them as apostates who left Islam, because there's some situation in between the Sunni and the Shia.
Sure,
and they
yeah.
blame him for destroying the plan to free Palestine as they planned. And apparently there was a big fight between him and them in some meeting which was in the beginning of the week. And he got very angry at them, and they got very angry at him at what they did. So he went to the hotel to find a bomb which blew him up. So who put the bomb? Okay, big question.
Wasn't me. I had nothing to do with it.
Yes, you have an alibi. You were in Florida. But what I'm saying is that in addition to what Israel would do to the man, I believe that the Iranians would do it even more willingly after what he said to them about their betrayal against Hamas, because they did not have yet joined the war. 10 months, Israel is grinding Gaza. And what are the Iranians doing there? Nothing. So apparently he got in some kind of very vociferous argument with them, and they decided to get rid of the man.
You know, we'll have to do more of these because I want to kind of war game this with you. A few years back with our good friend Batsi, you took me all up north, and we looked at the strategies and all of this. You're constructing a scenario that sounds outrageous. The Iranians invited him in for the presidential ceremony and then whacked them because they have good reason to. Beside the Shia Sunni thing, that's enough reason, but an operational reason. Does this sort of thinking, out of the box thinking that's completely legitimate in the Middle East, is this understood by Netanyahu and those closest to him running this war?
Look, definitely they understand what is happening. It's time that they understand. They didn't understand towards the October 7th, that they thought that Hamas are deterred and confined in Gaza, while Hamas prepared a big power in order to break this siege and to do to us what they did. Okay, now they woke up, and now they started to function to a degree that Israel succeeded to get rid of the military commander of Hezbollah, Fuad Shukr. It was like 15, 16 hours before Haniyeh was killed in Tehran. By the way, because of this proximity of time between the assassination or targeting of Fuad Shukr in Beirut and Haniyeh in Tehran, could be that the Iranians did it in a time which will be easy to blame Israel for this. After all, Israel just got rid of the guy in Lebanon. Maybe Israel did the same thing in Tehran against Haniyeh as well. So this, in my view, shows that it very possibly might be the Iranians who got rid of him because of what he might have said to them, as accusing them for betraying the Palestinians and their plight to free Palestine.
Yeah, it definitely needs to be put on the table of consideration. Yeah, a week ago, this past month, you and I have been around a while. This past month, from the debate, President Trump's debate with President Biden, to the assassination attempt, to the Republican convention, to Biden stepping down, to the assassination and the Dihaya region. That region in Beirut, that's the Hezbollah fortress, isn't it? That's where Hezbollah operates, at that neighborhood in Beirut.
The southern suburb of Beirut, named Dahia. Dahia means the suburb. But when you talk about this suburb in Beirut, you mean the southern suburb where the Shia reside. Nasrallah and Hezbollah turned this neighborhood into a big fortress because they dug under the ground very deep bunkers. And this apparently is where Hassan Nasrallah is hiding. Of course, he talks to the media, talks to the camera from under the earth, because he knows that if he comes out from the cave, he might be very possibly targeted by Israel. And not by Israel only, because in Lebanon there are so many people who would do the same thing to Nasrallah. The Druze, in order to take revenge for the killing of 12 children in Majd al-Shams last Saturday, and for assassinating many Druze through the years in Lebanon. The Christians will do the same thing in Lebanon. And the Sunnis also, they hate Nasrallah because he wants to spread Shiism all over the Lebanon. So if Nasrallah drags Lebanon to a war against Israel, and Israel actually destroys, as Israel promised, to bring Lebanon back to the Stone Age, if there is another war, maybe this will unite the opponents of Hezbollah, means the Christians, the Sunnis, and the Druze, to fight Hezbollah and maybe to get rid of Hezbollah. I'll show you two papers which were found in southern Lebanon in 2006 in the war. Look at this one. This one shows Khamenei, the leader of Iran, having some kind of encounter with this character which is made of light.
Wow.
This is the man of light is the hidden imam who is hiding already for more than 1,000 years, and he is still there, and he represents the divine light in the world, and he enlightens the thoughts and the minds of the leader, so the Iranian leader cannot make any mistake because he's getting the wisdom from the hidden imam. This is what they believe.
Wow.
Another one, which is
in our Christian religion, that's a demon. That guy is talking to a demon, you know? But go ahead.
Okay. Now, the other one is a pamphlet, which is the biography of Khomeini, the one who led the Iranians. So this is it. Now, here it says in Arabic, Sutur Nur, means the light, the lines of light. And if you see the graphics, you see the light, the divine light, which enlightens the head of Khomeini, his mouth, his chest, his hands, means that Allah, through the hidden imam, enlightens his thoughts, his sayings, his feelings, and his deeds. Therefore, he cannot make any mistake.
Unbelievable.
So if he decides to have a nuclear weapon, who are the American wine drinkers to tell him what to do and what not to do? Who are the British, for example, swine eaters to tell them, the believers, what to do and what not to do? And they look at everybody else from high and above, these Iranians, and they consider themselves as mu'minin, means believers, while all the others are infidels, and there is no way that a believer should obey a disbeliever or an apostate or people like the Americans and the British who have no religion at all.
Does that emanation of that light, you know, from wherever it's coming from, give the current Ayatollahs in Iran more theological authority than Mohammad?
Well, this is what the Sunnis are accusing the Shia, for creating such a situation that the current leaders are actually in the level of Muhammad. If they are ma'asumin, means infallible, they are just like Muhammad. And because they are enshrined and enlightened by the divine light, as it shows in these two pamphlets. So, this is the accusation of the Sunnah against the Shia, which elevates the leaders, the daily leaders of the Shia to the level of Prophet Muhammad.
Wow.
And this is something which the Sunnah, that's one of the reasons why many Sunnis consider the Shia to be apostates, people who left Islam, because if you claim that a human being today is more or less equal to the Prophet Muhammad, this is totally unacceptable by the Sunnis.
Wow. Okay. You have an interesting weekend, I'm sure. We will be praying for you, and let's get together on the other side a few days from now, and we'll reflect on where the world is and what the heck is going on. How about it?
Thank you so much, Tom, and willingly I will come with you again.
Always my pleasure. You take care.